the traditions are all around us at Christmas time or holiday time. I have friends celebrating Hanukkah right now or preparing for that. And so just the traditions, they're all around us. And also, I try to encourage folks who say, well, I grew up in a foster home, or I grew up with this situation or that situation, and I didn't have these wonderful traditions like you have and somebody else has, to start now. Start now and make this year's, and call it your tradition and share it with your children or grandchildren or your aunt or your neighbor or your niece if you don't have children.
Hola y bienvenidos. Welcome to Mole Mama Cooking with Love. You're about to join us for our weekly adventure where we chat with foodies and home chefs who are helping us to be inspired and to learn. And from Mother Teresa, spread love everywhere you go and let no one ever come to you without leaving happier. I love that quote, and I love it especially for the holiday season because it is, after all about us being happy, about connecting to others, and because of who today's guest is. When I was thinking about the holidays and who I wanted to have here with me to chat with you about this very special time of year, there was a name that came up really strong and loudly for me. She's been on my show before. I have Miss Katie from Heritage Ways here today. And the reason why I wanted to have her back is that she is somebody who really speaks from her heart. If you haven't checked out her YouTube channel, you need to do that immediately. Follow her on Instagram. It's all under Heritage Ways because she is about that good old-fashioned connecting with loved ones, with family, traditions, and I just love her. So I'm so excited that you're here, Miss Katie. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Diana. Wow, that is such a blessing of an introduction. I'm honored to be here. Truly, I am. I love what you stand for, and I think our hearts are aligned in so many ways. And just thank you. Thank you so very much for having me.
I'm delighted to have you, as I mentioned, and I just wanted to get started and have a conversation about what are some of the traditions that you and your family do for the holidays.
Oh, well, where do I start? Let's see. I should mention that my husband and I have been married for 30 years, and we have had to stop and think if that's right, but that's right, 30 years. And we have 6 children and 2 grandchildren. So I mentioned that to give our friends out there an idea of our family life and how many in the family and how long we've been carrying on our traditions. One of the traditions that we have practiced started when I was younger, and I have a brother and a sister, and we were preacher's family, minister's family, and my dad preached in a small country congregation as most of my growing up years. And one thing that we always did is we baked cookies. And this is kind of a quintessential tradition for a lot of people. But honestly, we baked cookies. We lived in a small community, a small county in southern Middle Tennessee. And we baked cookies. Sometimes we would have a cookie swap at church, but that was rare. And we bagged them or put them on a nice plate or what have you. And we would go and visit all 5 of my core childhood family. All of us, we would go together and visit elderly, shut-in. Sometimes it was people not in our church. A lot of times it was people from the church, but a lot of times it wasn't. It was just neighbors, country neighbors. And I have fond memories of doing that as a little girl. And I brought that tradition into our family when I married my husband. And that's something that we always did with our big boys. Now, our 3 older boys are adults and they've left home, and we have 3 little children still at home. And those little children are adopted. And so we're kind of, we've got two families, so to speak, bigs and littles. But that's one thing that we don't do so much now in our current situation and lifestyle. But all through our raising our big boys, we always did that. And that's something so simple. Number one, you've got the family together making homemade baked goods or cookies. We never bought things to give. We always made homemade cookies. And with the big boys, we didn't homeschool in the month of December. We took it off to do all these service projects and fun activities and that kind of thing. So that's the number one tradition that speaks to me when you ask that question of just baking the home baked goods. But the visits are what I think the people remember. I still have people say, "Oh, I remember when you all would bring the big boys and we'd visit, and so big boy would play in the floor with my grandchildren's toys," and they just have fond memories of that. And I don't even remember the long list of people that we did visit, but those people remember the kindnesses that we tried to show. So it's about taking time and sharing lives and stories with people. So that is the number one tradition that I can share with our listeners today.
I love that tradition. And you know what? We did the same thing. And my mama did. So we would bake tons and tons of cookies.
Mm-hmm.
Now we had a really huge extended family, so most of those cookies were going to family members.
Right.
But we did the same thing, and I have the fondest memories of making her cookies. Now, unfortunately, when she passed, we lost most of those cookie recipes. I don't know where they went. They got misplaced, but every now and then somebody from our extended family will reach out to me and go, do you still make those cookies? Do you have those recipes? Oh my gosh, I
Right.
love those cookies. I'm like, I don't. So like I said, but so interesting that here we are, different parts of the world or the country, and we had a very similar tradition. I love that, Miss Katie.
Yes, that is so beautiful. And it's fun too. When you said that, it made me think it's fun to go to somebody and say, and give them this plate of assorted treats, and they are delighted because they've never had this kind or that kind or what have you. And we would always make different types. My dad's family is German ancestry, so we would make springlies, and we would make those, and then we would make my
What are those,
northern.
Miss?
Well, those are like an anise. They're a square anise flavored German cookie that have an imprint on top. Now, there are different variations, but I just go by my German family's recipe and method, and I have my German uncle's rolling pin. But it's just it's very basic ingredients, and it's flour and sugar and butter and powdered sugar and the anise flavoring and eggs, I think, and I'm not sure if I do or don't have that recipe. Oh, I've got it. Oh, it's on YouTube. I was trying to think where I have that. I've got a video of that on YouTube, and talking about my uncle's heritage. That particular uncle was married into the family, but he was German. He came from Germany in the early part of the 1900s. But so our friends would have different kinds, like the mule ears, or they're called molasses creams from my northern family recipe box, and then I've got my southern grandmother's tea cake recipe. So it's fun to share those different recipes, and that's great that I bet you could share all kinds of
Yeah,
things
my
with us.
mom's were, yeah, my mom's were she made fantastic peanut butter cookies. I'm
Mm.
so sad that we lost that recipe. But peanut butter cookies, which I know are not very Christmas, but we make fudge, a ton of fudge. And then she'd make sugar cookies that she always put jam in.
Oh,
And
like
lots of
thumbprint
times I had,
type things,
yeah,
or
yeah, it's a thumbprint jam. Yeah.
okay.
So either
Uh,
strawberry jam, because we would make that because we had strawberry fields around us. So we'd make that from scratch.
mm,
A lot of peach and apricot ones, and chocolate chip, of course.
hmm
But oh my gosh, And it was so interesting. So you're talking about putting on a plate. My mom always put it in a gift box, like
Okay.
a
Yeah.
shirt gift box.
Okay. Oh,
And
neat. Yes.
and we would I remember she'd have me wrap the top of the box in pretty, Christmas
Mm-hmm.
paper and put a
Mm-hmm.
bow on it. And so we delivered it like a Christmas present. It looked like a
Yes.
Christmas present. And it was, everybody knew it was those cookies. So,
Yes. Well, you know what, Diana? I think that that is a beautiful idea. The fact that our acts, not just what we give, but the act of doing so can become a tradition, something that our family looks forward to and our friends. Because my great aunt, who's passed years ago, she always gave us gingerbread men, which I didn't even care for the gingerbread men, but I was just loving the fact that I got that every Christmas. Gingerbread men neatly placed in a Quaker oatmeal tube box. Just the
oh,
Quaker oatmeal, the cylinder,
yeah.
not box, but the cylinder with the lid. And she always put it in that. And just the fact I knew I was going to get from Auntie the oatmeal box with the gingerbread men and the little red hots for the noses and the buttons and stuff. So just I think the traditions are all around us at Christmas time or holiday time. I have friends celebrating Hanukkah right now or preparing for that. And so just the traditions, they're all around us. And also, I try to encourage folks who say, well, I grew up in a foster home, or I grew up with this situation or that situation, and I didn't have these wonderful traditions like you have and somebody else has. And I just try to encourage folks to start now. Start now and make this year's, make a tradition and call it your tradition and share it with your children or grandchildren or your aunt or your neighbor or your niece if you don't have children. And your heritage can start now. You can have a heritage that you pass on. So, but yeah, we had lots of traditions and frugal gifts and things like that we always and still do try to give.
Can you talk about some more ideas around these frugal gifts?
Well, sure. I will tell you one thing that we started doing, and I like to share this with people as to give an idea of something you can do. So you always have who doesn't have that child who wants to start opening presents the minute that the first one is put under the tree, and with our youngest being 8 years old. Um, we still have that. And our oldest is 27, and I've got a photo of him from about 5 years ago that I snapped, and he got caught trying to look at the presents under the tree and shake them. So, we started back when our big boys were little. We started what we call theme nights. And these have basically been the same through the years with just a few changes. On how we implement them. And we still are doing this to this day. So for about 27 years or 25 years, we've been doing this. So different nights, depending on what the activities are going on in the month of December, we pick out different nights the week prior to Christmas. Not just sometime throughout December. And we will put on the calendar and we will have the following theme nights. We will have sweets night. We will have media night. We will have game night, pajama night, ornament night. And I think that's it. And that's separate from the visiting that we do. We also do that on the years that go to visit as I'd already described. So the theme nights will look like this. They will be able to open a gift, and we build it up. Tonight's ornament night, yay! And so I will. In the past, I typically buy an ornament that fits our style, our look, each child, and so forth. And I will buy that and wrap it up, and they open the ornament, and that's another tradition in itself. Every year, our children get an ornament. So when our children get married or leave home, like our adult children have, they have however many ornaments, however old they are. If they leave home at 21 or 25 or what have you, that's how many ornaments they have, or maybe even a few more if they've, collected a few more. So they've got enough to start decorating their own tree. So ornament night, they would receive an ornament. And sometimes, like this year, I haven't decided what I'm going to do this year yet, but I think this year we're going to make ornaments because this year the budget is tighter than other years. So see, it's flexible. You can make them for inexpensively. Other years I've worked outside the home, I just bought a cute little ornament. So that is flexible. Pajama night, every child, this includes mom and dad too, these theme nights, typically they do, depending again on our budget and what dad and I decide to do for each other. But pajama night, you get a new pair of pajamas or something in that realm, whether it's house shoes or robe or something like that. It's typically footed pajamas here in the South. I don't know where you are, Diana, that your children need that, but footed pajamas, if you know what I'm talking about, they have the feet built in. We call them bear suits, but anyway, footed pajamas. And that's typically what the children like to get. And as a side note, another tradition is to take a children's picture under the tree before they go to bed Christmas Eve. So they've got all their, new pajamas on at that time. Another one is sweets night, and that varies across the board. One night we went to the local mom and shop donut shop, like at 11 o'clock when the donuts just came out of the oven. That can look different. You can go to a bakery, you can bake something, that looks different all the time. And then, what was the other one? Oh, media night. Media is, through the years, it has looked different. When we could afford it, each person might get a movie that they want or a CD. Back in the day, back before they had iPods and all that, when our big boys were little, they got cassettes and CDs.
Right.
So they would get that. Nowadays, what we do is we do one classic movie for the whole family. So they just, one child gets to open the one present that night and we will watch it or not watch it. Oh, another one is game night. I don't know if I said that, but they, through the years, they would get a game, just a family game, board game, card game, or what have you. And so those are the theme nights that we've done. And also that way they can open a gift, and it might not be terribly exciting to open, some undergarments or pajamas on pajama night, but at least I could say, hey, yay, you got to open a present. Isn't that wonderful? So, that's just one thing that we've done through the years is
I love those ideas. Those are such fun ideas. And I think the theme across all of them is around connection and spending time with each other.
That's absolutely right. And we have done more of that in December through the years, especially since we started homeschooling. We had kind of two different lives, before homeschooling when I taught school and worked outside the home, and then afterwards. And you just have to work with what you have. And so I will say that it has looked different since I've been home with the children in December. One of our hugest traditions, and even the big boys loved it when they got bigger. Now, they might not broadcast that to the world, but I'll do it for them. They loved building and decorating gingerbread houses.
Oh,
Now, that's something that, and we've done this every single solitary year for, 20 something years. I've even taught classes in schools and things like that on how to decorate them. Not classes, but had little, I guess they'd be called classes, but we have done that. And I typically every year bake my pieces because I'm just didn't want to have to spend to buy the kits, and the kits weren't even available back when I started this years ago. That's something that the big boy, all the kids, and I did too. I do too. I decorate one, and it's just so fun to laugh and tell, hey, you've got candy on your mouth. You're not supposed to be eating the icing and all this kind of stuff. And they decorated, the big boys would get pretzel rods, and they'd glue those on there, not glue, paste those on there with icing, and it would be their log cabin. And that's something to a good tradition. It's a good tradition when your children start to do that in their own families. And last year when we were traveling full time, we still are, but I wasn't able to make the pieces and our second son, Morgan, and his beautiful wife, Lyndon, baked the pieces for me and gave me the icing and wrapped it up like a whole gift kit and blessed me with a gift kit
Oh,
of, so that
oh,
last Christmas, so because they knew that that's just so on my heart, and I just really wanted to do that every Christmas, and they blessed me with the trappings to be able to make that. And so that's another thing that, and I urge our friends out there, you don't have to make your own pieces. That is a little daunting, um, because we have a whole process where we make the a cardboard house first so it won't and then we glue the pieces on and all that. It's really sturdy the way we do it. But you can
wow.
buy the kits, and I did that this year. So I walked
And you
into
did
the
that.
store and swallowed that pride and bought that kit. And you know what? I was sitting there when the little kids were making theirs, and I thought, it's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay. I'm doing the best I can. I'm learning to give myself grace. And even
Yes.
if that tradition didn't get accomplished in 1 year, it's okay, friend. You can give yourself grace. That's what Miss Katie's
Yeah.
working on. And so, and it worked great. Well, except for one of our childs. And as soon as the finishing touch was on, the whole thing collapsed.
Oh
But she
no.
had a good attitude. And I said, okay, let's just don't throw the pieces away. We'll try to figure it out. But that is one of our dear traditions as well as gingerbread houses, among, many other things that we've done in the past and still do.
And that's also a great tradition to spend time with your children and together and allow them to be creative. And I can't believe that you used to make them from scratch. I always bought them for my children. I didn't even know that you could make them from scratch. So, um, but it was
Well,
something that they always looked forward to too. And it was just so much fun to
it
put
is
together.
fun. And like I said, I've had parties, like, I've taught in schools, I've taught classes, but also I've invited people, ladies and daughters over, and it is fun just to spend time and laugh. And it's a shame that we spend so much time in December and not other times, but at the same time, it's not a shame. It's a great thing that we all do that and have those traditions and look forward to that.
So when you were talking about your game night, one of the traditions in my family was that we always used to play Monopoly on
Mm.
Christmas Eve. And I have to come clean. I have been known to not be the nicest Monopoly player on the planet. Like there's a whole other personality that comes out because I always won. I've never lost. But oh my goodness, it was just so much fun. I loved it. I still so loved it.
So let me ask. So is your strategy to get those light blue ones, or do you try to focus on Boardwalk and Park Place?
I get Boardwalk and Park Place, and I basically just I get everything.
Okay.
And pretty much at the end, what I will negotiate for people to keep playing and what they have to give me. My husband is just like, I don't even know who that person is. When you sit down and that Monopoly board opens up, I'm scared. It's just like, who is she?
It's over. She's, yeah, the different person. You know what? And that too is a great, folks who money might be tight, or even if money's not tight, just remembering that, just being able to say, this is what we do on Christmas Eve. We play Monopoly. I remember as a child, my grandfather played Rook, not with me because I never could figure it out. They tried to teach me, but my grandfather played with my brother and my dad, my husband, when we were all in Ohio at New Year's time. Just I wish I wish for folks to just remember that traditions don't have to be buying things. You can have a Monopoly board that's 40 years old and still have fun. And it's just the idea of doing and spending time and not forgetting those snacks. Now, we do have snacks when we play Monopoly.
Yes, absolutely have to have snacks for Monopoly and
Yes.
any other games. One of my other games that I still love. I've been playing it, I don't know for how many decades, but Uno,
Hmm.
just that simple little card game. Oh my goodness. When you were talking about board games, I was like, Uno and Monopoly and Spades. Those are my games. So,
Yes. Yes. Well, see, now you have to understand, I did grow up and still live in southern middle Tennessee, and my daddy was from Ohio. And uh, you have to understand, we played, how did he say? You know. You know.
Oh.
See, because we didn't understand it was a Spanish word forever, and Daddy always played you know. And it was recent years I was like, "Oh, it's Uno. It's a Spanish. Yeah, we got this." So, but well, we're all works in progress. But
That is a really, oh, that's so cute. I just love that game. I grew up we played a lot of games because I was on a farm and
Mhm.
we didn't, I mean, I didn't have cable until I was in college. Like
Right.
it just, we couldn't get it out where we lived.
Mhm.
And so we played games and it definitely a lot of cards. Oh my goodness. And dominoes.
Yes.
And I was so delighted. I think it was my youngest son, one of his graduation parties. Even with all the gaming devices that they all have now and we had in the house, they ended up on our patio playing cards. And I was like,
Mm,
yes, that's so
yes.
great.
That is great. And yeah, we're teaching our littles how to play continental rummy right now. So they're doing pretty well. My 8-year-old actually beat us the other day, which was a little scary. But yeah, it's fun. But you know what? My mom she didn't sit down and play games much. And that kind of made me sad as a child. But looking back now, and she's passed on, but given her grace, I now kind of understand because I'm a little bit like that. I get kind of antsy. That's the way I am. It's my personality. It's hard for me to sit and play a long game. And so I wonder if that's how she was. She rarely played games with us. And I do try to sit down and play games with the children as much as possible. But, mom was always in the kitchen, you know, and she was always whipping up the holiday treats and the drink. There was always something. And I'm definitely do that. I find excuses to be in the kitchen and to make treats. And even if it's in my small home that I'm in currently, still there's always an excuse to be in the kitchen and make some treats or some drinks or something.
Me too, definitely. But I will play cards. My mom did as well. My mom played a lot of games with us. And right now, this time of year, we always had a lot of Mexican hot chocolate.
Mm, mm-hmm.
It's a little bit colder and it was, just something. And even a couple of nights ago, we didn't have any of the Mexican hot chocolate, and I like made my own. So it's like I have to have some. I don't feel like going to the store. So I just, had some really good quality cocoa and some cinnamon and milk, and oh my gosh, it was so good.
Mm-hmm.
Brown sugar,
Yeah,
love it.
my cousin lives in Bogota. She grew up in Guatemala. She is an American citizen, but she's also a Colombian citizen, and but we're very, very close. I mean, we're just about as close as my sister and I are, and we see each other at least 1 to 2 times a year when they come up to the Tennessee and North Carolina area. Well, I've learned from her a lot about their cooking. But one thing is, and I'm going to ask you the name of the tool, but the tool you rub between your hands to make the hot chocolate, what is that tool called? Do you,
And full disclosure, I don't know the name of it.
okay.
I know
Well, no, that's
nothing.
fine. I didn't know if you
My
knew,
mom used to whisk,
but
so
you know what
I
I'm
don't.
talking about, though. That it produces the
Yes,
okay.
yes,
Yes. Well, they would use that, and it frothed it. Is that a word?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And it's so delicious. I love Mexican hot chocolate.
That's
And in
great.
fact, I make something called Texas hot chocolate. It's a mix, and I don't know if it's similar, but it does have cinnamon and cloves and allspice. So, does yours
Oh,
just have cinnamon? Does the Mexican just have cinnamon?
I think it's more of cinnamon
Hmm.
than anything else. And they sell like, there's different brands of like the cubes and it kind of melts down, but I think it's cinnamon and brown sugar. Like I said, I tried to recreate it from scratch. So it's like,
Okay. Now the little brand with the older lady, like the grandmother on the front. The
abuelitas. Yeah,
Okay, I've bought that before. That's not Mexican though, is it? I mean, that's not considered
it
Mexican hot
is.
chocolate.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Well, look at me knowing what I didn't know what I was drinking. Okay, well, we buy that, and that's good. I made that the other day for the children. So,
It's
Yes.
really good with a Mexican sweetbread or any kind of, like dipping it in the, taking your cookie or your bread and dipping it in the chocolate. It's really good that way.
Okay.
So,
I don't know what Mexican sweetbread is. That like just I don't.
oh.
Is that like a donut or something? Or
There's a whole bunch of different varieties, and it's basically like our Mexican version of donuts. But there's
okay.
like giant cookies and conchas, and so there's Mexican bakeries, and that's where they sell usually Mexican bread. I think you can get it in some stores, but
Okay.
up here in California, we have a lot of Mexican bakeries where you can go and find our pan mexicano. So,
Okay. I've learned a little bit of that from my friend
yeah,
Andrea at our supper story. So yeah, I'm trying to learn, and I love all types of food. So we look forward to trying those one day. Mexican
that's awesome.
sweetbreads. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so I have to ask you, what are you doing for Christmas dinner?
Oh my, you
You
know
do
what? That's a good question.
it.
It's a good question. I wish I had the answer. No, I just yesterday, as well, do you want full disclosure? Full disclosure is we were sitting at McDonald's eating. Now, I don't typically do that. I really don't do that with my children, but I did yesterday. So there's full disclosure. And I was sitting there with my notepad and I was texting my husband and older son who will be with us, what do you want to have um, for Christmas? And what we do, we don't typically have a big Christmas dinner. Our tradition is we have a Christmas Eve dinner, and that's what I guess most people would call their Christmas dinner. And then we have a Christmas brunch. And then Christmas Day is games and playing with your presents, if there's something that you got to play with, and snack foods. So Christmas Eve dinner is probably the one you would be referring to. And we have a tradition in my husband's family, and he has picked up the tradition since his grandfather passed away. And that is he gets a smoked, salt cured country ham. And that's what we call it. Now, that's different from a sugar cured. It's a typical, quintessential Southern country ham. And Brent's grandfather, sometime, well, he didn't smoke them. I know some people have who do smoke their own country hams. But I do think that Brent's grandfather did salt it and prepare it. But nevertheless, we buy ours here at a local place called the Hammery. It's a mom and pop type place in our big town. So we will buy the ham. We haven't done that yet because we're a little bit behind on everything this year. But typically, my husband will buy that in the end of November, 1st of December, and just hang it in our kitchen in our farmhouse. And oh my word, just the smell of that smoked ham hanging there is just delightful. And the anticipation that it brings. So he prepares that ham. He has a process whereby he soaks it and then he boils it and then he cools it down and he slices it and we eat it cold or room temperature. So that's our meat that we eat every Christmas Eve dinner. There are other ways to prepare that type of ham, but that's how he prepares it for our holiday meat. And we have certain traditional things that we have. We might have like a cherry, it's a cherry jello salad, it's cherry gelatin salad, or it's got Coke in it. So it's got Coca-Cola. So it's really good with the ham. And then we might have a potato casserole. I've done different things through the years, maybe broccoli or um, not asparagus because that's out of season here, but a squash casserole and things like that, or tossed salad and homemade rolls. And then for Christmas brunch, we will have kind of the usual, I guess, Southern classics. We'll have hash brown casserole and we'll have scrambled eggs or, um, um, like a breakfast casserole. This year, my son Owen has requested biscuits and gravy, so we'll have biscuits and gravy and scrambled eggs and hash brown casserole. And then pretty much I'm off duty after brunch. I'm done. Now, typically, too, we have always had like as soon as we get up, we'll have cinnamon rolls and fruit or something like that before we start all the the kids are excited about gifts and stockings and that kind of thing. And then we'll have our brunch about 11 o'clock. And then after that, that's it. I will have had finger foods already ready in the fridge and all kinds of cookies and pies and desserts and cakes and things like that. Hot cider in my coffee urn, which the family really loves, my hot cider, or wassail, I guess some people call it. So that's what we do. We just and then mom's off duty here on your own after brunch is over. So yeah.
Okay, we have to go back to that ham because I'm like sitting here going, "Oh my goodness, I've never
Mm-hmm.
heard of this before." And it
Oh, okay.
sounds so
Well,
delicious.
and I don't mean to plug our YouTube videos, but I will say that there are 3, it's a series of 3 on our YouTube channel, just in case somebody's interested in looking. And it is, they are videos that we made early on in our YouTube education journey. So they're not, I would do them a little differently nowadays, but they're there. And they tell the process, and they also tell the heritage. My husband tells the heritage of the ham. And because we are very interested and involved in and passionate about the heritage foods and the heritage of foods. So yeah, he buys the ham and cuts off the hock. And I save that, of course, for beans, or I'll put it in the freezer for, for the winter to use in beans. And he will soak it several times, and honestly don't know how many times, but he'll soak it and change the water for 2 or 3 days. And that gets the salt out, but not, he likes a salty ham. So it doesn't remove all of the salt. It just removes, a good portion of it. And then after that, he will boil it depending on, he's done it 2 or 3 different ways. Sometimes he'll have a pan big enough pot to immerse it and boil it for several hours. And other times he's had to turn it over and boil it. And that's it. And then, now it's not falling apart at this point. I don't know how long he boils it. I'd have to ask him or look at the video because I don't remember. Hey, this is his. I'm happy to say, good, yes, you do this. I'll go about my merry way and you do this. And it's a labor of love for him because our grandchildren call him Granddaddy. He called his granddaddy Granddaddy, and he's carrying on Granddaddy's tradition. So then he drains that after he boils it, pours the water off, wraps that thing up in, I don't know if he slices it first or not. I can't remember. But anyway, he refrigerates it at some point and slices it. And yeah, it's absolutely delicious. And, just paper thinly sliced, it's basically prosciutto. So, if you like prosciutto,
I do.
we just make our slices bigger and call it Southern Country ham. And that's it. And now I used to cater. And when I catered, I've been known to bake one where you can still, I don't remember if I boiled it or not, but where you score it and then put some kind of glaze or, that involved clove and maybe pineapple juice. I haven't done that in years, but that's delicious too to bake it. It's going to be saltier because you're not boiling it, but that's very delicious. And of course, with Southern, we like yeast biscuits or a yeast roll with the country ham. And the local hammery actually serves the prosciutto on yeast rolls. Oh my goodness, that is so good.
That sounds so good.
And then
Now,
you can freeze the leftovers.
No, and ham is amazing. Ham is still amazing. I've been trying to eat healthier, but it's something I can't give up. My brother-in-law smokes them for us, and he did a couple for Thanksgiving that were just delicious. But I've never heard of what you just talked about. So thank you for sharing that with me. That's just
happy
and
to.
I hope I can try that someday because it sounds fantastic. Now, I have to ask you too, before we run out of time, how do you make your apple cider?
Well, I have my cookbook in front of me because I was perusing it a while ago trying to get my ideas for Christmas, and I actually have that here. let's see. I have one of those 45 cup silver urns. I'm doing my hands, but you can't see that. So I have to describe it. With the spout. It's rival. I can't remember the name brand, but anyway, it's one of those big, tall percolator urns, and that's what I make this in. And so, I'd get a gallon of good quality apple cider. Now, that's I'm not talking. I get as good quality as I can, even to the point raw, just pressed from a friend. But if you can't find that, there are some good quality brands that don't have a bunch of added whatevers in them from the grocery store. And I just pour that in that coffee urn. And by the way, I have two coffee urns. One I use just for coffee, and one I use for other things, whether it's water or cider, so that my flavors aren't mingling through the years. And then I have little tags that I set out for my guests so they'll know what's what. I add a half a cup of, or a half a gallon of juice. So, and this recipe's forgiving. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be half a gallon. One of those 64-ounce containers of crayon apple or pineapple juice. And then 4 cups of water. Now, I did make the mistake, made this a few weeks ago, and I didn't add the water, and everybody said, "Ooh, that was too rich." And I didn't tell them I forgot to add the water. I just went along with it. Now, in the percolator basket, I add the following items: 2 sticks of cinnamon, just broken up, and 8 to 10 cloves, whole cloves, half a cup of brown sugar, an orange sliced, and a half a lemon sliced, and 1 star anise pod. Now, those can be hard to find, or somebody might not even know what that is. But I do get my spices in bulk from my Amish friends. We're at an Amish bulk food store because my family in Ohio does live in Amish country. But I'm sure you could probably, I've never looked for an anise pod in the grocery store, but surely there's jars of them in the spice section. And you can leave it out. You can certainly leave it out if you don't have it. And then a dash of salt. So I put all of the non-liquid ingredients in that percolator basket, and I just assemble my little basket or my little urn and turn it on, and it's ready to go whenever it's heated up. Now, the person that doesn't have the percolator, of course, I can see you putting this in a crock pot, all the ingredients except for maybe the spices. Maybe you put them in a spice bag or a cheesecloth and then hang it on the edge of the, you could drop it in the crock pot or in your pot on the stove. So it's versatile. But my family really, really loves this recipe, and our friends expect it. We have always had an open house through the years. Not in the past 2 years, since we have different living conditions. We currently travel around the nation and serve and encourage folks. So life looks a little different right now, and I miss my open houses. But we typically have always had an open house where we invited as many friends as we could, over 100 or more. And then we also had some type of collection for either like a charity type thing, a nonprofit. That has looked different through the years. One year it was an orphanage in Africa that our son helped to physically build. And one year it was a special needs child who the family had just adopted the child from Guatemala. So we do that as kind of a service project and an open house and a way to just share community and share the joy of the season. And we always serve this hot spiced cider for that event. So maybe that's worth trying for somebody.
I'm going to try it. My husband has been saying, like, for weeks now that he's craving some hot apple cider and asking me if I had a recipe. So full disclosure, I was like, ooh, I need to get her recipe. I have your cookbook, so I'll have to look it up in there.
Yes, so, it is in my cookbook. It's in my cookbook. So yeah,
good.
That's great.
It sounds so good. So creative too, to put pineapple juice. I would have never thought of that.
Oh, I prefer that to the cran apple, or you can just use cranberry or apple. Like I said, it's very forgiving. I typically use the cran apple, but I prefer the pineapple. I think my guests are just used to the cran apple. And you know what? You could probably put slices of pineapple in the percolator basket too. But anyway, this is how I've always done it. So it's been a hit.
I will definitely be trying it for my hubby. Like I said, he's been asking for it, and I'm like, oh, I don't have a recipe. So I'm like, oh,
good job. All right.
Oh, I need one of those. So, and I had one, just didn't know that it was in your cookbook. So,
oh well, that's okay.
Miss Katie, it has been so delightful to chat with you about your holiday traditions and some of your recipes. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, Diana, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored, and I wish your listeners just a joyous season around their tables, whether they have 2 people or 200. Just
That's fantastic. Thank you. And please, listeners, check out her YouTube channel. As she mentioned, many of the recipes that she was mentioning today are there, Heritage Ways on YouTube. And you can see she's just delightful and sweet. And so anyway, thank you so much. And I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us. And remember to add the most important ingredient to every recipe you make, your love. And as my mama always said to me as we said our goodbyes, que Dios te bendiga, may God bless you. Have a wonderful holiday season, as Miss Katie said, whether that's celebrating with 2 or 200. May you be connected, feel loved, and feel joy. Thank you for tuning into Mole Mama Cooking with Love. Hola, this is Mole Mama. If you're enjoying our new podcast, you might want to check out my new book, Mole Mama, A Memoir of Love, Cooking, and Loss. Please stay tuned to learn more. My new book, Mole Mama, A Memoir of Love, Cooking, and Loss, is a story of my beautiful mother, Rose. Her family was from Mexico, and she taught me how to make amazing Mexican dishes like enchiladas and Spanish rice and mole and crunchy tacos and guacamole and all different types of salsas. The story focuses on the last 13 months of her life, where she helped me perfect her recipes that had never been written down, while she taste tested from her hospital bed and I cooked for her from the kitchen. It was the last part of our story together, but there is joy in the story, there is love, and I hope that it consoles you, it helps you connect and remember those that you love. Squeeze them a little harder, keep them a little closer. But oh, the stories of food, and there's even recipes. I hope you decide to check out my new book. Go to Amazon.com and search for Mole Mama, A Memoir of Love, Cooking, and Loss. Que Dios te bendiga. May God bless you.